Hello, this is Brooks Anderson, and this is going to be a quick overview and I guess tutorial of how I use a graphics tablet for writing drill in Pyware. So the first couple of things I want to go over are just the basics of how the tablet works and is set up, and then also get into how I use it in Pyware. Um, so to begin, this is the tablet I have now. I started with a really cheap off-brand that I used for like 2 years, and I loved it, so I decided to upgrade to the Wacom or Wacom or whatever they call themselves. This is a bamboo line, which is like their entry level, but this is the biggest one as far as surface area goes. And the more surface area, the more control you have. You can get a little bit more detailed, and the where the pen tip is more precise. But uh, that's just preference. I do recommend getting a fairly large one, even if you go off-brand. It feels more comfortable. These also have touch control, so it's like a gigantic laptop trackpad, and it's pretty neat because it doesn't ever mess up while your pen is on or near it, so you don't have to worry about like causing interference. And I'll show you there's a couple other neat features that I use that for. There's 4 buttons along the side here that I don't really use for anything. I could probably set them up to be useful, but I don't really bother. The top one is controls the touch sensitivity, so I can't use touch anymore, but I just leave it on because it's never a problem. And now the stylus, pen, whatever. These have an eraser, but I don't really have a reason to use that in Pyware. There's the tip, which has a nib in it. I'll show you more about that later. There's a button on the side. There's 2 buttons here actually. There's one closest to the end and then one a little bit further back. And I hold mine like this with my index finger on there. I've kind of started trying to use my thumb because it's easier to hit that back button, but I don't really bother. So, if you get a tablet, you want to go into the settings for it. This is the Wacom software. Any other tablet should have similar like options and settings. So, first off, if you go to the tablet tab, you can pick left or right-handed. You can assign the 4 buttons over here to different shortcuts. The pen tab, you can adjust the eraser feel and tip feel. That's going to be more for pressure sensitivity. If you're using like Photoshop or you're doing like real graphic design. There's the pen buttons you want to assign to however you write, I guess, but for me, in Pyware, I use right-click to click away a lot, to deselect stuff. So I have right-click set as the button my index finger rests on, so I can quickly unselect stuff. And then I have this back one set to enter, so I can do a move. When I'm happy with it, I can hit enter, and saves like, a fraction of a second. The double-click distance is going to describe how far away the pen tip needs to be before it registers as a double click. And I don't know if you can see this, but how the pen works is the tip doesn't have to be touching the surface to be tracked on the screen. As soon as you do touch the surface, it counts as a click. And touch and hold counts as dragging or holding down your left click. So it's pretty simple once you get the hang of it. Double click distance, it's not really something I've used much or dealt with. I haven't had any problems with how it works. The tracking for pen, this is important, especially if you're using dual monitors like I do. So for the pen, I only want it to use the screen where my grid is going to be. So my left monitor is the one that I use as my primary. That way, I have a 1-to-1 ratio of when I move the pen up and down, and when I get to the edge of the tablet, it's the edge of the screen. So it's just more precise that way, but I also have it set to, in the touch options, oops, that's pretty much it. I mean, I don't really mess with any of this stuff. I do use the full area. I don't know why you would not do that, but anyway, these are the settings I use. I guess by default, when I use the touch input, like the trackpad, it does go across all the monitors. So this is more convenient because I can just fly through and hit shortcuts and stuff. But when I'm using the pen, I don't have to move my hand as much to get across this, or I have to move my hand more. I don't know. You get it. There's also some cool things in here that you can do with multi-touch. If you're used to like Apple trackpad, you can use 2 fingers to scroll, and you can switch between apps and all that stuff. Pinch to zoom, all that fun stuff. There's a lot of stuff to play with. Another thing to note is the nib. These little tips are replaceable. I think this one came with like 5. This is not the nib that it came with. This is one I bought on Amazon because it had some good reviews. And this one I will show you. These are called the Wacom stroke nibs. And the reason I like them is because you can see there's like these little springs in here. It gives like a really subtle springy motion. And I've also noticed the plastic on these does not wear out as fast as the default ones. The ones that I was using before, I would have to go through like 3 or 4 every year because they would just disintegrate. And they just feel a little bit more rough, but these are the ones I recommend. I really like these. Alright, so I apologize if this video looks crazy or if it's way too small. I'll try my best to edit it, but if you're familiar with Pyware, you pretty much know how the program actually works. What I wanted to show you is I'm going to throw a couple things on the field and show you how I use it. So, like I said, when you're hovering, it's just like you're moving your mouse around, but whenever you touch the surface, it's like you're clicking and holding. And then I have this front button set to as my right click, so I can click away if I'm, after I'm done selecting a form or whatever. So, let's just throw a couple people on the field real quick. And I use these symbols instead of dots, so don't judge me. So, like I said, you can select by clicking and dragging. You can also, use any of these tools you want. And I like it because it's a 1-to-1 correlation, so every time you come up here, it's always in this corner. Or, like the front hash side 225 is always going to be here on the tablet. So it's as if you're actually working on a piece of paper with a pen. So it's easy to jump around once you get used to where everything is. And you can see you don't have to drag it over. Whereas on the mouse, you would have to come over here and every time you pick up your finger, it resets. It's pretty neat. What I do like about the touch sensitivity is I can come over here, and then I can manipulate the real view window with the touch control. So 2 fingers zooms in. I can click and tap and rotate. Then you can oh, that's not doing anything. But yeah, that's kind of what I use it for. Just quickly to hop around to different areas. It's very handy. So, I mean, that's pretty much it. It's fairly basic. The hardest part to get used to is really how it feels compared to a mouse, because it's a one-to-one correlation, which means that, you know, you don't have to pick up the pen and move it over and over and over. These points on the screen are always the same points on the tablet. And I originally got a tablet just for the fun of it, to see if I, you know, if it would help or make things faster. And the first, like, maybe the first drill I wrote with it, I was underwhelmed. I didn't really like it. It was slower. But almost immediately after, once I switched back to a mouse, I felt clumsy, because there's just, this is way more precise than a mouse. Like, it's always going to be more precise. You know, you can go into the gesture tool and quickly just grab any positions that you want. And then when I'm done, I can hit enter with this back button. You can just do stuff way faster than you're used to with a mouse. And once you get used to it, you'll never be able to go back. But yeah, that's about it. I don't think there's anything else. Really, it just takes practice, and like, force yourself to get through a couple pages or maybe a whole show with it, and then try going back to a mouse, and you're gonna not want to use a mouse anymore. So that's it. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments or email me. Take care.